Thank you so much for inviting me here today. My name is Barbara Dawson. I'm honored to be here on behalf of MAPT FTD. I was asked to share my FTD journey with you and story and some observations on clinical trials, both from our organization's perspective and from the community perspective. My FTD story is likely a familiar one to everyone in this room. My husband, Stephen, was a brilliant, multi-talented person. In his early years, he was a prolific artist and eventually put aside his artistic talent to realize his calling as a doctor. I met him at a social function where I worked as an ICU nurse, and it was love at first sight. He had an energy that was immediately drew you to him. He was generous, kind, and always went out of his way to help anyone who needed him. He could do anything he set his mind to, which was really annoying sometimes, except for the fact that he was humble, hilarious, and approachable. You could not help but love him. In the early days, we left for an adventure to provide medical care to underserved areas in First Nation communities in Northern Ontario. Working together came easily, and we were a great team. While we were there, we welcomed 4 children. He spent countless hours away from us, devoted to his patients. Over the years, we have received several notes of gratitude and kind words from co-workers and patients alike. I'd like to share one addressed to my children that really summed him up well. I worked alongside your father as an X-ray technician, a wonderful friend and co-worker. He was a rock through many traumatic emergencies. I also remember his amazing bedside manner with his patients who were terminal, as well as their families. He exhibited immense empathy and tenderness towards them. I remember those days as some of the best days of my life. Be assured he was a blessing to those whose life he crossed. FTD changed all of that. In the almost 20 years prior to his death, his behavior became erratic, compulsive, irrational, and sometimes violent. We lived in constant turmoil. He became increasingly obsessive about memorizing medical protocols and Bible verses, and delivered pamphlets about salvation on the streets. It was very difficult to love this version of him. Then came professional heartbreak. The College of Physicians and Surgeons disciplined him for his inappropriate and unprofessional behavior. His license to practice medicine was permanently revoked. We tried desperately to get help, but it never ended well. As we grew more and more concerned, my daughter secretly arranged for an off-site community healthcare team to assess him. He failed his cognitive tests, and when he realized what was going on, he became enraged and demonstrated to the medical team his superpower ability to memorize things. Baffled by this bizarre behavior, he was immediately put under a Form 1 and admitted to a psychiatric ward. The initial diagnosis was schizophrenia or bipolar disease. This, despite having a similar history of his father and a sister who 2 years his junior was in a nursing home for her own neurological decline. In the 2 years preceding his death, the 5 of us became Stephen's full-time caregivers. I had to continue working as he had let both his disability and life insurance lapse, and there was no other income aside from my own. I spent the last of our savings for private nursing care during the daytime hours. In September 26, Stephen passed away peacefully just days before Christmas, his favorite time of the year. His sister Barbara passed away 2 months before him. In his final years, there was a return to a lot of love and laughter. And in the end, he was able to sing along word for word all of his favorite Beatles tunes. We received the diagnosis several months later, FTD caused by the MAPT mutation. I was utterly gutted. Our 4 children who witnessed the ravages of this disease now live knowing that they were at risk. We were given no hope whatsoever for a treatment or a cure, or even the knowledge that there was anyone else out there like us. It was a profound feeling of grief and isolation. On May 23rd, everything changed. At the AFTD Educational Conference at a session for genetic families, I met 3 other MAPT families. It was like better than winning the lottery, actually. And so we went on to meet a few other families along the way, and we formed Cure MAPT FTD. And we haven't stopped since, and we continue to work with great resolve and solidarity in our mission, which is to raise awareness of the MAPT genetic mutation, assist a global network of families, and advocate for trials that will lead to a cure. This is our amazing executive team. We all have full-time jobs and families and other commitments, but we've worked tirelessly to accomplish a lot in less than a year. We travel to conferences at our own expense, connect several times a week, communicate regularly with our community through monthly meetings and newsletters, and in just 8 months, we have established an esteemed scientific advisory board. Thank you all so much for your support and for believing in us. We've established partnerships. In just a year, we've come quite a ways. We've established partnerships with the Red Lab Executive and already met with doctors in Colombia. Hello, Dr. Matsalana. And Brazil to talk about outreach to see how we might be able to support some MAPT families there. We've attended the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, participated in the recent AFTD Research Roundtable, proposed an FDA listening session, and we've sent out communication to 318 global partners in 121 countries, and we're only just getting started. I wanted to share some thoughts on Cure MAPT's role in clinical trials. I believe that as an organization, we can play a critical role to support families throughout the trial process, and we can be instrumental in this process in a number of ways. Or through early engagement as patient advocates, we can provide key insights and should be involved in planning from the outset. We have expertise on our executive community. We have lived experience, medical background, and knowledge to help inform the patient perspective. Through our channels, we can provide outreach to potential trial participations and support buy-in. Community engagement, again, we have through our marketing and our community, we're able to collect input and support any communication out to the community. We can provide timely information, both sharing and gathering of information at critical points in this process. An example, before coming here, we sent out a number of questions to our community to share their voices, and we got some very detailed feedback, which I've included in an appendix in this presentation. However, we did hear back from the community directly, and the input that we received is clear and our voices are strong. We have nothing to lose, and time is of the essence. There is an urgency for our families. We need a cure, and we need clinical trials to begin, particularly for those who are pre-symptomatic carriers. There's frustration. Families have been in research for up to 20 years, yet there are no MAPT-specific clinical trials or any disease-modifying therapies. There was some thoughts that clinical trials should begin at symptom onset or as early as possible for greater chance of success for the patient, researchers, and pharma company. We've heard how difficult it is from our community's perspective of having patients who are at an advanced state. It causes a terrible hardship on both the family and the individual when they're advanced. We are aware that there are currently tau-reducing therapies, and we would like to gain access to those and leverage already established biomarkers for some of the mutations. And as well, in terms of cost, we know that funding a platform trial is costly. However, we want to highlight the significant financial impact of multiple generations of family members and caregivers having to abandon careers and jobs losses at an early age, and the cost to the social service system and society at large is really staggering. And we have some fierce fighters and heroes really in our midst who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s and doing everything in their power to change the future. I want to highlight just a few of them. Lindy Jacobs, who most of you know, has immersed herself in the science and advocacy of MAPT. She leaves no stone unturned when it comes to getting to the bottom of a cure. She'll be featured in an upcoming documentary and also an upcoming article in the New York Times. Jordan and Kian Adams, who are literally running the length of the UK as we speak to raise money and awareness for FTD. They are just an impressive and inspiring young men. They're called the FTD Brothers, and they're documenting their journey across the UK to raise money and awareness for FTD, in particular their MAPT FTD. So I encourage you to follow them. They're amazing. Two of our executive members, Barb and Annika, there was recently a New York Times article called The Vanishing Family, and there's also an upcoming book coming out on their family by renowned author Robert Kolker. And then there's my personal heroes, my sons, and my daughter, who traveled to St. Louis every month for 5 months to donate their spinal fluid for a study led by Dr. Gashal. My daughter's led successful fundraising campaigns for the AFTD, and she's part of our executive team as well. And there's that photo of Paul with his spinal fluid here in the corner, very proudly displaying that. And also, speaking of Paul, please meet Annika and Paul. Maybe just give a wave here. They're here today. They know what it means to be a caregiver to a parent at an early age and being at risk of carrying the MAPT mutation. I encourage you to speak with them if you're able to. One more slide. The image you see here is Steve's last painting. To me, it really communicates what FTD must have felt like and what he could no longer express in his words. Our MAPT community is fighting for their lives and the lives of their children and grandchildren. And we know that with your help, we can and we must end the generational impact of this cruel and devastating disease. We're walking step by step beside you and are grateful for your expertise and dedication. I thank you so much for hearing my story.